welcome back, rankers. Did you have a good weekend? I got a big week. I'm in Sydney this week, except for this morning. I don't know whether you noticed last week, but the Australian Domain Administrator launched .au. So basically what they did was they didn't have a policy for .au, so they just decided to launch a couple of .au domain names, and in the process they stole two companies' brands. So all of a sudden, in my eyes, the .au space has become unstable for business. So we know what's going on, at least anyway. And a lot of people have been asking me, Jim, what do we do? We've got to register a new domain. Well, if you register a .com.au, you're not eligible for .au. And now that we know that the CEO of Outer can basically just take any domain he wants by the looks of it, well, no one's safe. Really, no brand is safe. So what I'm looking at doing is, what's the long-term picture here? So when you are choosing or migrating a domain, there's a few things to consider. And I've had some points made over the last week, and some of them are just myths, right? So I just want to go through a few of them today. So the first thing, we always get asked is, well, what top-level domain should we go for? Well, if you can get the .com, get the .com. Someone said to me the other day, oh, you don't want .biz because .biz, that's, spammy and all the rest of it, and you're not going to get traffic. And my response to that was, well, I only switched away from .biz last year. So up until April last year, we'd been .biz for 20 years on the web, and we only moved to .com.au last year, ironically, because it had more trust and was more stable than a .biz. And we thought we might be able to get some more click-throughs for it. Anyway, Outer has destroyed it, so we're looking at our options now. And certainly .co, a lot of people use, and with all of these domain names, you've got to consider their original purpose. So, for instance, .ly.ly is Libya, and that really came to global awareness, if you like, with Bitly and Bitly short links and those sorts of things. So, but when Libya was falling a few years back, there were some questions over whether Bitly was going to be able to continue, certainly under that domain. So you've got to consider all these things. So a lot of people say, oh, well, what about a generic something or other, top-level domain? Well, you can go for one of those. There's no problem with those. The thing to be aware with those is that if someone's selling them to you, at like the registrars that we've seen, some of the registrars in Australia that we've seen come out and say, hey, if you get a generic top-level domain name, it's going to help your SEO. No, it won't. That's bulltish. And Google has said that more than once. They've said that the top-level domain does not affect any SEO at all. So if someone's telling you that, just go and shop somewhere else. It's rubbish. The thing to remember, though, is that they will get a lower click-through rate in the search results. And this is from a study from SEMrush. And we're catching up with the people from SEMrush today. Hi, Ashley. And what they learned is that people don't necessarily understand immediately what those top-level domains are. So they don't trust them as much, and they'll click on one that they recognize. So these are the sorts of things you've got to consider. Just remember that, keep your words the same. And my slide hasn't changed. There we go. Keep your words the same and work out how you're going to promote it. Like, where is it going to go? Are you going to put it in print? Are you going to put it on display ads, radio ads, TV ads, those sorts of things? How are you going to imprint the new domain into the minds of the consumer? And that's probably going to be the hardest thing you'll have to work out. They'll eventually get used to it if you do everything with the migration correctly over time. But you basically, you want to get rid of all mentions of that other domain that you had. So if that's a .com.au, you don't want to see that anymore. You might want to hold it in the background. So, and this is another question that I've had asked. Well, what are you going to do, Jim? It's like, well, I'm preparing for the worst right now. So I'm preparing for an Australian namespace which is just littered with junky domains, ones that, so for instance, whois.com.au, they had a trademark on that, but Outer just came in and grabbed the whois.au, right? So it's unstable, trademarks don't apply. What are you going to do? How are you going to protect yourself? where is your business going to be in the next 5 years? And is the domain that you currently have set up properly for that? If it's not, you might want to start thinking about moving now. And people say to me, well, you're going to register the .au? Well, may not be able to get it. It's just like, I don't know. If we can get it and it's, $20, yeah, maybe, just for protection and a defensive registration, which is what the registrars and out are accounting on. But I will wait and see, but, we may have to go back to .biz. I don't want to do that. That'll kill me. But you need something with a good click-through rate, something that's going to match your brand. We've grown out of .biz. Works up there. So they're the main things to consider. The other thing to do too is update any external citations. So just things like LinkedIn, Google My Business, anything that has an official capacity, any government websites that you might be listed on, like local government, those sorts of things. Get those external citations mentioning the right domain name, not the old one. And of course, do your redirects, set up in Google Search Console, obviously. And both domains set up in Google Search Console and set up for the 4 versions of the site. So HTTP and HTTPS and the W's and the non-W's. Make sure they're all set up and do the change of address on the root. And if that's obviously you're using. And that change of address is done inside Google Search Console. Now, you've got to monitor this every day until you are convinced that the old domain has actually been removed from the index. The other thing to be aware of is that this is why it's so important to have every version of the Google Search Console set up properly, is because sometimes things can happen that you didn't know were going on unless you have Google Search Console set up. So make sure you do that and check the index graph in Google Search Console. Do a site colon check on the different domains and those sorts of things. Obviously, monitor your ranking. Make sure you know what's going on there. If you have a strong brand, you may not see any amount of drop. When I say a strong brand, I mean a strong brand with your audience. So if at the moment you're getting a substantial amount of traffic, like maybe over 30, 50,000 uniques a month, this will probably go smoothly. If, however, you're getting substantially less traffic than that, it's going to take longer. And this is what it gets back to what Google said. URLs that are more popular on the internet tend to get crawled more often to keep them fresher in our index. And that really applies to site migration, because if you are popular and people are actually looking for you, Google's going to have to come back into the site and see what's going on and get that index sorted pretty quickly because users want to see it. That's it for today's show. Have a great week, and we will see you next week. If you have any questions, Jim@stewartmedia.biz. Thanks very much.